Alright, you might recognize this game as Catherine. Catherine just came out a few days ago, and this is it. This is the very beginning. Kind of trying to skip through the tutorial stuff here. Just gonna show kind of, I guess, the climbing part of it because, I'd like to show some of the other stuff, but I really don't want to get into anything story related, just because I figure that's probably better to find out for yourself. Especially in this case. And so, again, like, if you don't know what this game is about, you play as this guy named Vincent. Vincent is currently in a relationship with a girl named Catherine, spelled with a K. Catherine is... I guess I'll get more into a review about how she's depicted. But she is kind of the... They've been together for a long time. Her mom's kind of like beating down on her, like, not beating her obviously, but it's kind of like looking at her and saying, "Hey, you've been with this guy for a long time. When are you guys gonna get married? When are you guys gonna start settling down?" And she kind of wants that, right? And Vincent's not really sure. He's not sure what he wants, and so, eventually at some point throughout the game, a little early on, along comes this other girl named Catherine, spelled with a C. And she's essentially kind of made out to be Vincent's dream girl. Like, she is everything that he wants from a girl, and he begins cheating on his girlfriend Catherine with a K. And there's this rumor going around that that men who are unloyal to their partners are having these nightmares where they have to climb these towers, and by doing so, like, if they fail to climb to the top of the tower and they die in their dream, that they die in real life. And so that's a big kind of rumor going around. And so that's what Vincent's experiencing right now. And throughout the game, it's finding, like, his just continuously climbing and trying to escape this nightmare that he's in. And there's boss fights and stuff kind of later on, like you saw there. It's kind of hinting towards a future encounter where all the boss fights are basically kind of Vincent's fears reincarnated into some kind of demonic boss that, like, chases after you as you climb up this big tower. So, I mean, that's essentially the gist of it. You saw there, like, the climbing thing is pretty simple. It's just a bunch of blocks that you can push and you can pull, and depending on what the blocks are connected to, kind of depends on, like, if they fall or if they stay. As long as, like, kind of the corners are always connected, you're fine, right? Like, the block will just stay there, and if it's not, then the block will fall. And that can either be a good or bad thing. Sometimes you need blocks to fall, and as you go through, you'll have, like, ice blocks that you can slide across. There'll be bomb blocks that if you step on them, they'll blow up all the blocks surrounding that area. There are spike blocks that if you step on, then spikes will come up and kill you. And all kinds of different hazards that you kind of got to watch out for. So that's like basically the puzzle element of this game. Is you go to sleep, you have some kind of nightmare, and you have to escape. And then in between levels, you'll walk into this confessional, and it will ask you a question, something like, "What's the most important thing to you in a relationship?" And not a real question, but you can say, like, "Well, trust is the most important thing," or you can say, "Well, it doesn't really matter to me," or so, like, something like that, right? Like a kind of a carefree, like, "Oh yeah, whatever," or a more serious, like, I want to take this relationship seriously, so I value trust, and that will kind of lean you towards whichever Catherine that you want to lean towards, right? The Catherine with a C who is young, 22 years old, and she doesn't want marriage. She just wants to kind of, like, sleep around, like. And then, Catherine with a K is much more settled down, trying to prepare for, the future and wanting to get married and all that stuff. And so you have to kind of make that decision. For me, well, I'll talk about it in the review, but so that's that, right? And throughout the game, when you're awake, you're in this bar that you always come to, and Usually you're sitting at this table with your friends, and you'll talk to them about what's going on, and they'll offer you advice, and you can talk to all the different patrons that visit the bar. There is like an arcade machine where you can play a Rapunzel game. All this stuff. So you can interact with everybody here. You can talk to them. Sometimes it opens up options for you to offer them advice and kind of help them out as well. And then you'll get these text messages. So I just got this text message from Catherine. You can check it. I'm not gonna read it, but it actually gives you options. So it's like, well, what do I want to say to her? You kind of like relate it to you're texting back someone, and you're like, well, oh, I don't want to say that. That sounds bad. So I'm going to say, oh, but that sounds really bad too. Or like you're trying to think of like the best possible thing to say. So you're always like rewriting everything and rewording it. And you just kind of keep doing it. Like you keep trying to find out what do I want to say? Like how do I want to come across? And depending on like what Catherine you choose, it's going to kind of depend on like how you're going to respond to these messages, right? So maybe, I don't know, kind of the earlier on ones aren't the best replies to be pro Catherine with a K. But it's basically like that, and then you'll send the message to her, and that bar will come up and be like, well, that was real bad of you, or that was great. Like, it's not a good evil thing, it is a lawful and chaos choice, is how they word it. And so it's kind of explaining that right here. Alright. And that was basically every time you complete a level, you'll get an email from this like person who was like, hey, you beat this level, good job. It's kind of weird. Oh. Guess I'm gonna save the game. So I beat this last night. And that up there, you see, that's the time of my last save right before the final boss. So about 11.5 hours, I would say, to beat the game. First run through on easy. I will tell you right now, I'm glad I chose easy to start out with, because, man, this game gets pretty intense later on, and I honestly, I can't even imagine what it would be like to play on even normal. Like, I imagine normal is almost a headache towards the end of the game. So I just kind of imagine it's real bad news. Or even playing like on hard or nightmare difficulty or whatever. Alright, let's see if we can show another one of these. So when this game was like first kind of shown, they were showing a lot of the very risque images of Catherine like eating pizza, and then we started seeing these screenshots of Vincent and around these sheep, and everyone was like, man, what is going on in this game? Like, why? Like, I don't understand any of this. Like, how in the world are they going to make sense of this? And honestly, like, maybe surprisingly to some people, it actually, like, the sheep, the block climbing, everything is actually explained well. I can't even hint at it because it probably would give away certain things about who is doing this and what the cause of all this stuff is. But it's actually kind of explained pretty well. It's enough to where like it makes sense, and especially as far as Atlas games go, like I should have seen it coming, I guess. Hopefully that's not too much of a spoiler. I don't think it is, but like it makes sense. The explanation for why things are the way they are, like, it makes sense. So you see here, you can drop down, like as you saw me doing earlier. You can hold on through the edges and shimmy across if you need to. A lot of the strategy you kind of use when you're climbing, you need So I have 3 blocks here. So it's kind of obvious in this case here, but it's not always obvious. But I have 3 blocks, so I have to draw out 2, so I have 1 more open, so I can kind of have that staircase type of thing going on here. And then I draw out another one, again, 1 space open, kind of go up like that. Shown here, you can push blocks. You can push as many as you want. So even if I have 1 or even 5 in a row, I can constantly be pushing these as much as I want. There are also checkpoints, so levels get pretty long the further you go, and those checkpoints are like a godsend, seriously. Very happy about that, about the fact that we have checkpoints here. So you see like the coins I'm collecting, those coins can be used as money. There's kind of like an item vendor between levels that you can buy certain things. There's certain items you can buy. Maybe it will, if you collect a pillow, so that pillow item will give you like so many extra retries. You have the ability to buy an item that will let you just randomly create a block, which is super helpful in certain scenarios. There's an item later on. You have enemies actually on the stage who will block you, or they might attack you and try to like knock you off the blocks. And so you have an item that you can buy that will destroy all the enemies on the stage, or an item that will change all the blocks to just normal blocks instead of having like an ice block and a bomb block and a trap and stuff like that. So they can all be pretty helpful. So I don't want to show too much of this. I think we're good here. But that's Catherine. I finished it last night, about 11.5 hours. It's good. I don't know. I'm still kind of deciding how much I actually like this game. There are certain things. There are definitely things that it does. There are things it does really well, and then there are things that it doesn't do very well at all. The block climbing stuff, at first is really cool. It's kind of original, but after a while it got pretty old, and it got to the point where it's like I don't want to do this climbing thing anymore. I just kind of want to see what happens next. And to me, like, if you have a game where it gets to that point where you don't want to play it anymore, all you want to know is what happens next, you might have an issue. But again, it's one of those things where a lot of people I know are really loving this, and I could see where people will like this. The block climbing stuff is cool, it's unique, it's different. However, I don't know, it kind of gets old a little. It kind of gets old pretty fast. So there's that. But other than that, I really like this game. And so we're gonna have a review up probably not long after this video goes up. Hopefully, if you're kind of on the edge, this has helped steer you in whatever direction you would like to take. I tried not to show too much story stuff because I think that's really important in this game. I like the story. The ending I got of the 8 that there are, I thought that was a very fitting end to how this game goes, and so I enjoyed it. But that's Catherine. Hopefully that might help you decide what you should do, if you should buy it or wait. But there you go. We'll have a review up later.